It's time now for our meditation. You've got to have some faith. I love that. I want to take you to my favorite place for meditation. If you're familiar with the east coast of North Carolina and the Outer Banks, that's my place. So we're on Hatteras Island, and we're walking down to the beach. We feel the sand under our feet and how malleable it is as we walk. The waves are coming in at just a nice rolling pace that gives us that kind of white noise that we like to sleep to. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning, so the sun is up and full on our face. We've walked over the dunes, and we found a nice spot just to sit in the sand and feel Mother Earth. We feel that root chakra grounded in that energy of earth. We feel the coolness and the moisture in the sand that connects us to the ever-flowing river and sea of life. We look out over the waves and we notice the cerulean blue of the sky. Gorgeous. The cerulean blue that sparks our imagination. And then we notice the deeper blue of the ocean with the occasional little white cap. That deeper blue that reminds us of our deep faith. The faith that we take the right steps at the right moment. And we just sit in that knowing, feeling that presence of all that is love, that connects us all. And we just bask in the feeling, bask in the flow. And for just a minute, we sit in the comfort of the rolling waves. And we listen. We listen. Oh, so pleasant, so peaceful. And that divine spark within is just ignited thoughts. Thoughts that move us to stretch our bodies and begin to lift ourselves up and walk back across the sand. Back into this time and this place, in this community. So when you're ready, start moving, opening those gorgeous eyes. And I already feel the open hearts. Welcome back. Part of our daily word today was, I am divine. Breathe that in. You've already got it. You already know it. Hear it. Hear it in your own voice. I am divine. Well, I wasn't feeling it yesterday. As I tried to prepare for this talk, it was just, my mind was wanting to go everywhere but to focus. And my problem was that I had all this knowledge, all this stuff I wanted to share with you. And it was coming from Phil Pearson's The 12 Freedoms. I had a tetrahedron, I had the 12 powers in there, I could see how and it just didn't work. So I finally did the best I could with it, and I put it to rest. I said, I'm done. And I went off just trying to open up, move my head somewhere else, and let Spirit do what Spirit does. So I went to bed asking for divine guidance. And I woke up this morning thinking about Jacob wrestling with the angel. Do you remember that story from Genesis? If you may recall, Jacob was the twin of Esau. Esau was the older, but Jacob stole the birthright from his brother. Well, the brothers went their separate ways, and this story starts when Jacob has decided that it's time to reconcile. He needed to make amends for his error. So he goes on the journey. It's a long journey, and he has to sleep overnight in the wilderness. Well, he doesn't get much sleeping done because he spends the whole night fighting with a man, fighting with an angel, whatever. In the end, it's morning, and this man has had it, and he says, it's morning, let me go. And Jacob says, no, I will not let you go until you give me a blessing. And so this is the point at which transformation happens. We know about that. Jacob gets a new name, Israel. Well, that's what my day was yesterday. I was wrestling with my angels. And just like Jacob, my angel was not somebody out there. My angel was all of that personality stuff, all of that ego stuff going on in me. So Jacob's new name, his Jacob means the supplanter. His new name, Israel, means having inner realization of divine presence, dominion with God. Now, this is just a little sidebar for you. The story of Jacob and his 12 sons was the first iteration of the 12 powers that we find in the Bible. So that, that's for future reference. So as I made my transition and my transformation, this is what came to me. I pulled out James Dillard Freeman's memorial book of poetry, Angels Singing Me. And I went to the faith section because, man, I'm needing some inspiration to get this thing done. So the poem is Transformation. In the invisible, God's tireless hand fashions the wonder that at last appears, transmuting the dull stuff of circumstance into the rainbow shimmer of romance. And he that can sees pearls in grains of sand, diamonds in coal, fresh poems in stale tears. The ugly duckling, that's so hard to say, ugly duckling, hoping it would die, had never dreamed it might become a swan. The worm, all humbly, goes and never knows that one day it will be a butterfly. The night does not anticipate the dawn. The thorn has no knowledge of the rose. Who has the faith and foresight to surmise what a mighty unseen changes life has wrought? Out of the chrysalis of our defeat bursts greater glory than we ever thought. And he who does not blindly shut his eyes may find a rainbow in a muddy street. That was my turnaround. So what came was go back to basics. Go with what you know. So what is faith? We're talking about manifesting faith today. What is faith? And most of us think it's a belief in God or good or divine omnipresence, but that's something that's out there. It's something that we think is going to do something to or for us to manifest that dream. But remember, these 12 powers, faith, is innate. It lives in us, as us. We all have them. We have all of them. We have them all the time, and they are working all the time. And we can use or misuse them according to our understanding, the limitations that we may put on them, or we can also engage our faculty of imagination and expand our view. We can dream. In the quest, the Jafolas say, faith can only extend to the self-imposed boundaries of your present consciousness. There it is. It's all about consciousness. And they caution us to be aware of where and how we invest our faith. I love that thought. Invest my faith. How do I invest my faith? How do I invest my time? We are mind beings. You know, we think of ourselves as spiritual beings having a human experience. Well, we are. But we are mind beings. It is through our thinking that we perceive, that we can change. So we are mind beings. And we're all empowered to use those 12 powers as we choose. And it's always a choice, but it always flows from within. This is an excerpt from a lecture that Eric Butterworth did on practical metaphysics. On my morning walk, I listen to Eric Butterworth and Phil Pearson and Paul Hasselbeck, all those guys. So Eric Butterworth told this story. The dynamic key, you see, is not faith in God, but faith from God. Let's think about that a little bit. Faith in God is trying to direct your attention consciously to something outside yourself. Faith from God begins with the basic premise that you live in God, you move in God, you have your being in God. God is the foundation of the ground of your being. You center yourself in that consciousness, and then you believe from that consciousness. You're not believing in an abstraction. You're not believing in an intangible. You're believing from a consciousness which enables you to put yourself in tune with the process. Eric Butterworth is all about the flow. Well, my intention today was to share about the manifesting power of faith. Unity is all about practical application of the principles we learn. And it's through our faith faculty that we create or manifest our reality. I have to tell you, I'm all about faith. It's one of my favorite powers. And I feel like I know when I am using that faith power often. But I have really struggled to pull my ideas together in some meaningful, cohesive way to be able to share with you guys today. How do you think I was using my faith? Doubt, struggle, anxiety. And on the continuum, where did that put me? If this is a faith continuum, and over here is fear and doubt and struggle, and over here is reality, realization, knowing truth. I was down here at sub-zero yesterday. I reached such a point of frustration. I had a long conversation with my grandson. I shared that frustration. I love it when our children become our leaders. This is my grandchild who's leading me. I felt his compassion for my distress, and he really wanted to help me through this block. So we shared our mutual spiritual understandings. He's on a different path than I am. We use different words, different semantics. And my word is faith. The word he uses that means the same thing to him is focus. So at heart, we really speak the same language, and we use the same principles. And that was so cool that we could feel that connection. So having that conversation, I was able to get a little bit of a trickle of the flow going. So I'm back to Phil Pearson's 12 Freedoms. And this is what Phil has to say. Few people realize that the Bible story of the Israelites in bondage in Egypt is a metaphor for how we live now. Exodus is the story of Moses, whose name means drawing out, who leads the Israelites out of their bondage. All of his great deeds were accomplished by his holding up his rod, as he did over the Red Sea, and it parted. The lifting of Moses' rod is symbolic of using the faculty of faith. It is faith that brought the Israelites out of bondage. It is our ability to shape the sea of energy we live in to fit our faith. I love that. Our ability to shape the sea of energy that we live in. Our conception of what is real that can lift us out of bondage. It is through our positive faith, our positive vision of reality, that we can live a life of freedom. Our faith is our reality. My friends, I was in bondage yesterday. And as Zach shared, I began to remember how I have used faith in the past. Some of you know the story of how I manifested my true love. I had taken a prosperity class called The 4 T's at Unity in Charlottesville. It was about tithing of time, talent, and treasure. It involved affirmations, denials, treasure mapping, journaling, and mastermind prayer partners. I did it all. I still have that notebook. I pulled it out yesterday, and I am amazed at the journey that I have had and the change in how I see the God of my understanding and how I live in faith. Now, I did all those things. And it was not all sunshine and roses. There was work to do to grow my consciousness so that I could accept what I desired into my life. And it did not happen overnight. I went through some dark days, some doubts, and tears, and tears. But I stuck to it. My inner vision became sharper. My belief deepened. I knew what I wanted in a relationship. And all that time, with all those affirmations, all those denials, then the vision, the picture clarified itself for me. I knew what I wanted in the relationship, and I knew what I wanted in my new lifestyle. Every man I met, I thought, could this be the one? And the day I met Dave Walthall, and we started to talk, I thought, could this be the one? Yeah. And you know the rest of the story. He was absolutely the one. He and the life we shared was leaps and bounds beyond anything I could have imagined. And isn't that the way it often happens? When we conceive of the dream, do the work, and get out of the way, Spirit always shows us a better plan. Since then, through my faith, through my prayer partnerships, I have manifested the home of my heart's desire, a spiritual community that feeds my soul, and new friends. And all of that is still unfolding. I think it's probably true. The best is yet to come. I can't wait. I'd like to close with another story from Eric Butterworth. This is one that he also shared in one of his lectures. Apparently, Eric's father was a bit of a gambler, and there was a number of lean times in the Butterworth household. His mother was a very resourceful woman. At one time, they lost their home. Mother Butterworth set out to find a place to live. Now get this. She went to an upscale neighborhood and found a home rent-free. It was a barter deal. In return for living in the home, the Butterworth family, pretty much Mom and the kids, were to do some fixing up and tending the landscape. One Saturday, as the children were working in the yard, all afternoon there was a party going on next door. Well, they continued to work, and in the evening, they went into the house to clean up for dinner. Mother Butterworth had them set the table in their best dinnerware and seat themselves. She came in and seated herself and announced there was no food in the larder. There was nothing to prepare. So she proceeded a prayer of thanksgiving. And as she is praying her prayer of thanksgiving, the doorbell rings. The next door neighbor said he'd noticed they were all working hard all day long outside, and they probably didn't really feel like preparing dinner. Would they be willing to share in the leftovers from his party? My friends, that is manifesting faith. Thank you. Let me sit over here.
Thank you, Vivian. That was wonderful. It's so wonderful to be sitting in the audience and be spiritually fed. Thank you all for being here today. This is the time in our service when we get to give back to our community. And so I want to preface that by saying I want to thank everyone who tithed on their stimulus check. You know, that was really wonderful. That really helped us out this past week. So we'll take our tithes and offerings in our hands and we'll say our blessing together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, that this is so. And so it is. Amen and namaste.